Okay. Can you all hear me there? Can you hear me in the back? On the side? In the tower rock? You better listen. My name is Ron Senchak. I'm the president of the Stop the War Coalition in Manchester. When I was 17 years old, when I was a kid, I went into the U.S. Navy. You had to go in if you were working class. You had to go in to be conscripted into the military by the government. Of course, if you had money, you did not have to go. So George Bush didn't have to go. Cheney, who was the vice president, didn't have to go. And there's a whole raft of them who launched many, many wars, who never had to fight a single war in their life. The reason I mention that is that I've learned a few things over the years. And I learned by the time I was 18 in the Navy that the Vietnam War was built on lies. Lies after lies after lies. They put 250,000 troops in July 1965 because said America was being attacked by the North Vietnamese in the Gulf of Tonkin. Now I say to people who look on the internet, check that out. It never happened. They made it up. They made the whole thing up. 55,000 Americans died. 4 million people in Southeast Asia lost their lives. And they're still losing their lives today because the most horrific, terrible weapons of mass destruction were used on some of the poorest people in the world. Napalm. Now young people might not know what napalm is. Well, now we hear they're using it again. It goes on your skin and burns your skin off. When they found out people were jumping in the water, they created more napalm that stuck to you, even when you're in the water. And there's a famous picture of a young child running down the street after a napalm attack with her body burning and her skin coming off her body. But hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, started organizing and mobilizing against the war. And Vietnam was free because of the heroic struggle of the Vietnamese people, but also the anti-war movement around the world. And in front of the White House, they had machine gun nests, and by 1968, to guard the president from ex-soldiers that were demonstrating in front of the White House. But that set the tone. Vietnam, we defeated the government. The U.S. lost the war in Vietnam. And the specter of Vietnam has haunted them ever since. But it's also inspired the anti-war movement ever since. So I've learned that it's two words that really give you an idea of what it's about in the Middle East. One, oil. Oil. Oil is what it's about in the Middle East. And imperialism is how they control the oil to make sure it's not used for the benefit of the people who live on top of it. Britain and the United States, for year after year after year after year, supported the dictatorships. Mubarak was in there for 30 years. Hillary Clinton, this lover of democracy, said Mubarak was like a member of her family. Shows you what a dysfunctional, rotten family she must have had. He was a dictator. They loved him. They supplied the army with the weapons to keep the people down. Saudi Arabia, dictatorship, where the average wage is $13,000 a year, roughly 9,000 pounds, and the wealth of a handful of people at the top. They supported that dictatorship. Bahrain dictatorship. Kuwait, the first Gulf War was fought to free Kuwait. And what it did, it freed the Sultan of Kuwait to go back and sit back on his gold toilet seat, because that's what he had. And it was only last year that the Sultan of Kuwait was shooting down demonstrators who were fighting for democracy in Kuwait. So I learned that, what imperialism's about. You learn these lessons, and you learn they don't really care. They don't worry about whether you live or whether you die. They're interested in profits for their companies, the oil companies, the multinational companies, and the banks. We were told the first Gulf War, we were fighting for democracy to support the toppling of Saddam Hussein, to make the world free. And when the soldiers came back, they found out had looted the banks and robbed the people. It was made free for the rich and the wealthy. Okay, they've had a setback today, or yesterday, and it is a setback. It is a setback. They weren't expecting it. And I know the BBC is outraged. You watch the BBC News, they're so outraged about this. How could this happen? How could the rich and the powerful, our government, be defeated by ordinary people? Because at the end of it, it wasn't the MPs. It was the tradition from Vietnam, the tradition when 2 million people marched down in London, the tradition where young people are here today who want a better life than the one they're being offered. Now I say this, as far as some of our demands. One, we end all the arms sales to the Middle East. People may not know this, but the Middle East doesn't produce a single arm or a single bullet. They have to buy it. Who do they buy it from? The U.S. and Britain. They're the biggest arms suppliers in the entire world. I know America, they love arms. 600,000 handguns pointed at each other, you know. That's where the arms come from. And they send it there to keep the people down. That's what they do. The biggest arms deal in history has just been done with Saudi Arabia. The Saudi regime sent tanks in to crush the democracy movement. So the hypocrisy of these people is amazing. Also, withdraw all political, economic, and military support from all dictatorships and repressive regimes in the Middle East, including America's military camp called Israel. Don't give them any economic, political support. Also, we have to be loud, we have to be clear. That there can be freedom for nobody in this world, unless there's good freedom for Palestine and the Palestinian struggle. And we will never stop as an anti-war movement, as a peace movement, until we can march hand in hand with the people of Palestine back to Palestine. We've got to be on guard, though. They're going to try to wiggle out of it because these people are dishonest. They sell horrible weapons to dictators. They're capable of doing anything. They lie, they cheat, and they steal. We help stop a bit of the war in the Middle East, but there's a war taking place on the people in this country. We want jobs. We don't want bombs. We want real homes for our people, not bedroom tax. We want a future. We don't want 0-hour contracts. We want decent wages and conditions. And it's Cameron who's launching a war on the people in this country. So we got the Tories on the run. There's no mistake about it. Every demonstration that we have, whether it's the bedroom tax, the cuts, any demonstration or meeting that we have, we've got to be talking about kicking out the Tories. We've got them on the run. Kick them out, kick them out, kick them out. And it's September the 29th. September the 29th. At the GMEX Center, we want everybody here, along with hundreds of thousands of others, right? We want to surround the Tories, and we want a big loud message. We hate you, we hate your wars, we will not stop fighting till we kick you out, and we will keep on kicking whoever tries to do the same thing. Build the movement, keep going, and let's stop these wars once and for all. Thank you.